Hello, everybody. Welcome to the 2 Foot Tackle Podcast, Episode 3. My name is Aristotle Tackle, so I'm your host. I hope you're all doing well in these somewhat turbulent times. It's been a tricky period for especially those in Melbourne, but we will get through it. Before we start, make sure you follow it on all streaming platforms: Spotify, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts. We're on YouTube now, so give that a subscribe as well. Now the football, interesting. We'll touch on some FA Cup, some A-League before moving into AFCON. That always delivers, doesn't it? It's only been a week and a half of it actually starting, and it's 2 weeks of it starting. It's been an interesting period, isn't it? Gone some League Cup, some Premier League, a lot of big games happening and not happening in the league, and then some other leagues as well. Who went into footed, that segment, we'll touch on that, and then a preview for next week's actions. As always, I'm recording this on Monday the 17th, so anything that happens between now and tomorrow, it's bound to happen, but if anything does happen, obviously I won't know of it. So yes, okay. Let's start on shores, shall we? Let's start local. FA Cup. We'll brief the whole Australia happenings as nothing real exciting happened. We'll go the FA Cup, Sydney versus Brisbane. Sydney won 1-0 through an Elvis Cam Sober goal. Nothing really interesting happening in that game. Sydney were expected to progress and did progress. They controlled the game. They played as we all thought they would. And nothing unbelievable happening in that game. I think they did play on the weekends in the league, and Brisbane got a 1-1 draw in that. So they salvaged something. I think Elvis Gamsoba got an assist in the A-League game. So as a Victory supporter, it's good to see him performing for a team that's not us. I can't believe that's actually happening, but it is. And then perhaps the marquee game. There were only 2 games of A-League on this weekend, which is a shame. But the marquee game, Adelaide versus Melbourne City. Adelaide come from behind twice to salvage a draw. They went down 1-0, came back. They went 2-1 down, and then Melbourne City got a penalty. Melbourne City got a red card, conceding a penalty before Goodwin missed it, and then they got an equaliser quite late on in the game. So that leaves the table mishmashed because some teams have played 7 games, some teams have played 5, so it's very not settled yet. We'll have to wait a couple of weeks. Hopefully there's no more postponements of games because we really need this league to just settle into itself. It's still very, very turbulent at this stage, but once more games start getting played, once the less games start getting postponed, we'll start to see a more fair A-League ladder because some teams are perhaps in places they shouldn't be due to games played and games not played. So we'll see how that progresses. Now, moving on, we'll go to AFCON first. Now, we'll do a big wrap up of the group stages next week, as the group stages end a week from today. So we'll do a big wrap up on that, and we'll give predictions for the knockout stages next week. But I just want to touch on the referee quickly. Now, you guys will definitely know what I'm talking about. I think it was Mali versus Tunisia. The referee had a nightmare, to say the least. Now, for those who somehow don't know, I'm not sure what rock you've been living under, but the referee in the Mali versus Tunisia game decided to blow full time on the 85th minute. He then, obviously, that caused a delay in the game. The game got restarted in the 87th minute. And the referee, again, just blew full time on the 89th minute. And the game just ended. Now, after that, I think African officials storm into some press conference and say that the game's being restarted. And then Tunisia just don't come out for the restart. So Mali are given the win. Now, why? It's hard to grasp what he was thinking. Now, the excuse that the referee, or that's been made for the referee, is that he got heat stroke. Now, I get it. It's hot in Africa, right? Especially in Cameroon where they're playing. It's hot. I understand that. But that can't be an excuse, right? Like, surely not. Because that looked very dodgy to me. That looked like some underhand business, some brown paper bag business was going on, because that didn't look legitimate. A lot of people, including myself, have been talking about how AFCON's one of the better tournaments in the world. I think it is, and I think this just adds to the charm of it. Despite it being a slight dark spot on the game, perhaps, it adds to the whole spectacle of AFCON. And some of the tackles in some of the games have been absolutely horrific, and I love that. So why not celebrate it? Why not celebrate it? It's this tournament, it embraces it, and it's great fun to watch. Yeah, so again, like I said, we'll do a big wrap up of it next week. We'll wrap up the whole group stage, and we'll look forward to the knockout stages. Now, moving on to England, we won't touch on the Prem just yet. We'll touch on the League Cup. Now, 2 legs happened this week in the League Cup semi-final. Chelsea advanced comfortably, a 1-0 win, a 1-0 win on aggregate, a 3-0 win on aggregate, but a 1-0 win on the night for Chelsea against Spurs. It was relatively comfortable. Chelsea moved to a 4-2-2 formation. Now, I was undecided about it. We've used it before. I was undecided about it pre-game, but it worked to perfection pretty much. Those 4 attackers worked in tandem brilliantly, and we were never really in trouble at any stage. Now, another talking point from that game was VAR. Now, I'm not a fan of VAR, right? I don't think it's good for the game. I think it ruins the spectacle of the game, and it ruins that moment after you score a goal, that just pure elation. It ruins that. But it got it right. I don't like it, but it got it right. The first one was the penalty against Rudiger on Højbjerg, I believe. Clearly outside the box, and it was touch and go whether or not it was an actual foul, but the contact was made definitely outside the box, so no issues there. The second one, again, Kepa came out and cleanly got the ball against Lucas Moura. No issue with that. And the third goal, which a lot of people somehow don't understand the rule of offside. Harry Kane was well offside for that third goal. Third VAR controversy, let's say. But no issues on my end in terms of whether or not the decisions were right. But I'm not a fan of VAR, but it helped Chelsea, so I don't care. Moving on to Liverpool versus Arsenal. Liverpool were contained a 0-0 draw at home against a 10-man Arsenal. Now, we'll touch on Granit Xhaka a little bit later, and I think you know what segment that's going to be in, but we'll touch on him later. Liverpool, without Mane and without Salah, did not look potent. I think obviously Minamino missed a big chance, and if that goes in, then the tie completely changes. But they go to the Emirates 0-0 with 2 of their best players out, with Arsenal playing. Obviously, they didn't play on the weekend, and we'll touch on that as well. But they're playing relatively good football at this stage. Their confidence is up, and they'll take a lot of promise and confidence away from that 0-0 draw. Now, without Mane and Salah, can Liverpool get through this patch without them? Now, it's hard because the league is pretty much wrapped up. I mean, there's not a lot of... I doubt there'd be competition for City. But if Liverpool were to make... I mean, Liverpool have 2 games in hand. They win those 2 games in hand, they go 7 points behind Man City. And they do play them again. And if they win that, they go 4 points behind. And when it's 4 points, anything's possible, right? But it'd be very, very interesting to see without them if they can just win. Because at this stage, I'm not really sure performances and the attractiveness of the games they're playing really matter. It's just about winning. And I think they'll survive this patch of form without patch of games without Mane or Salah because they've just got enough quality, they've got enough creativity, especially out wide, and I think they'll survive this month just about. But it'll be a welcome return for the two African internationals for sure. Now, moving to the Premier League, we'll go on the first game, Chelsea versus Manchester City. Now, as a Chelsea supporter, I was very confident going into this. I thought we could get a result. I backed Tuchel against Pep, especially this season. Tuchel seems to have the form over Pep, but City were just too good. I don't think the team selection from Thomas Tuchel was the best. I don't think we went back to the 3-4-3 formation, and I don't think Ziyech and Pulisic were the right players for this game. I think if you start Lukaku, you have to have pace around him, and Ziyech isn't the quickest of players, and Pulisic is not in the best run of form. His confidence is very short at the moment. So I would have definitely started Mason Mount. I think he's so integral to the way that Chelsea attack. And I would have started either Timo Werner or Kai Havertz. I think they've got experience in big games, and they just provide that little bit of class that Pulisic and Ziyech didn't provide. Chelsea had chances. Two notable ones came from Lukaku, one in the first half, which had a misplaced pass to Ziyech, and a shot in the second half, which is a fantastic save from Edison. I don't think Lukaku could have done much more. He hit it hard, he hit it well, good spot, but Edison was too good on that one-on-one. And they just controlled the game throughout. It almost seemed inevitable when De Bruyne scored, and it was frustrating, but it wasn't really upsetting because Man City were just way too good. Just speaking on the goal, it was a good strike from De Bruyne, but I do think Kepa could have done a little bit better. If you watch it back, he takes one step or like a half step to his right, and that completely takes him out of the shot because all of his body weight is now on his right side, and then he has to change like in the blink of an eye to his left side and try and get across. And that shifting of weight takes him out of it completely because he only misses the ball by a couple of inches at most. And if he doesn't take those two steps, if he doesn't take that half step to his right, I reckon he could have shifted his weight earlier and got across to it. But ifs, buts, and it didn't happen. They did it. City were too good on the day. I think Chelsea's subs were the right subs, but they were made about 20 minutes too late. I think Mount should have been brought on at half-time. I think if Mount's brought on at half-time, it's a different story. I think we get a lot more creativity, we get a lot more intelligence, and we function better with Mason Mount in that attacking three. So it'll be interesting to see what the changes are for next game for Thomas Tuchel, which is, of course, the London derby, Chelsea versus Spurs, and we'll touch on that as well a bit later. Now, let's talk a bit on Man City and who and what can stop them. Now, I don't think anything can. I don't think anyone can stop Manchester City. I think they're too good. I think they, as a team, over 38 games, they are the best team in the Premier League. They've got the best coach in the Premier League. They've probably got the most well-drilled team in the Premier League, and they just are very consistent. I don't see them dropping points anymore this season. I think they've got their eyes fixated on that league, and they will not let it go. I think they're too good. If anything, it will be an injury to a key player, or it will be some sort of horrible run of form. But it looks to be a fourth premiership in 5 years for Pep Guardiola at Manchester City because they look the goods, don't they? They look very, very good. Moving around the Premier League, Philippe Coutinho is back and haunting United once more. Philippe Coutinho scoring to salvage a 2-2 draw at home for Aston Villa against Manchester United. Just want to quickly touch on Emi Martinez. Karma at the absolute maximum. which was funny to see. I don't like United, but that was funny to see Martinez get that. Get his just deserves, I reckon. But yeah, it's good to see a player of Coutinho's quality back in the league. I think him at his best is unworldly good. So yeah, the more he can stay fit, the more he can stay at his peak, the better it is for the league. And if Villa can get him on a permanent, there'll be some signing because he can transform that team into back to where they were last season. Rafa Benitez, moving on, now to Rafa Benitez, is sacked after a loss to Norwich, which I don't blame. Everton have been very, very poor this season. They sit, I think, 4 points above the relegation zone with like 20 games played. It's appalling. It's very, very poor. And I thought Rafa would come in and do a much better job, but clearly I was wrong. He has not been able to get that team working as he wanted to. He's known for his defensive solidity, yet he's leaking goals to Norwich. It's not good enough. I think his dismissal was just. Ostracising Luca Dean, selling James Rodriguez, and then only bringing in Rondon and Damari Gray. Really, I believe. I know that has something to do with the board, but it's still not good enough, and I think his dismissal was just. Now, going further down the league to the proper relegation battle, Watford hold Newcastle away from home. It was a brilliant strike from Alan Saint-Maximin to get Newcastle in the lead, and that was a world-class goal, by the way. He cuts inside brilliantly, finds the gap in between the defenders, and absolutely rifles it into the near post before poor defending, very, very poor defending from Jamal Lascelles in particular to let João Pedro, I believe, head in past the goalkeeper and give Watford a point which they desperately needed, because we all know Newcastle are going to... You'd think they'd invest and you'd think they'd get better as a squad. So it'll be interesting to see if Watford can hold on to that coveted 17th place position. Moving up the league this time, West Ham United versus Leeds. Now, Jack Harrison scored a hat-trick. Who would have thought that, huh? Surprising. I thought this was a nailed-on win for West Ham. Leeds are absolutely brutalised with injuries, but they somehow found a way, and they somehow kept on keeping on, and they defeated the massive West Ham, the mighty West Ham, at London Stadium, which was a shock. I think Leeds played their way and they got the job done. There's nothing much more to say. I think, speaking of West Ham, I think this is just a blip in the road. I don't think it's a cause for concern. They just got beaten on the day, and that's it. I think they'll be back. I think they'll bounce back and win next week. Although I don't know who they play, so don't hold me to that. But if they play anyone that's not in the top six, they'll win pretty comfortably, I reckon. Now, Liverpool 3, Brentford 0. Just your standard brilliance from Liverpool, really. Nothing much more to say. They dominated for the majority of the game, and they took a while to get their first, but once they did, the floodgates opened after half time, and nothing much more to say, just your standard brilliance. Now, there was meant to be one more game this weekend, but for whatever reason, it was postponed. Now, I am, of course, talking about the North London derby. Now, from what I've read and from what I've seen, Arsenal used COVID as an excuse. Now, I do know that they have players that tested COVID positive. Fine. But it is a fantastic bending of the rules. They have manipulated the rules brilliantly. And I think it's great, to be honest. I love the shithousery of it. But they claim they don't have enough players to fill a squad, yet they've sent Ainsley Maitland-Niles and Florian Balogun on loan in January, and they complain that they can't fill a squad, and they got out of a North London derby. I think it's great. It says a lot about the fabric of Arsenal, though, but I think it's great. which is weird because I backed Arsenal in that. Obviously, I don't know who tested positive for COVID and if it was like two key players and maybe not, but Arsenal have been playing well and Spurs are a little bit on a downward form. I reckon they could have won that, but it is what it is. The Spurs were not happy in their press release. They were very salty. Is probably the word I would use, which I understand because of course you want a North London derby. I believe it was at White Hart Lane as well, so that would obviously be a good spectacle. Now, speaking of maybe less of Tottenham, more actually no, Tottenham are in this conversation and Arsenal. That covered fourth position. Now, we're assuming that the top three are sewed up. Liverpool, Chelsea, Man City are all a cut above the rest of the league. Now, that fourth position is really being battled for by Manchester United, West Ham United, Tottenham Hotspur, and Arsenal. Now, for me, my initial thoughts go to West Ham. I just like the way that they play. I like the stringency and the solidity of the defense, and I just think David Moyes has that side ticking along brilliantly. But for me, it'd be hard to go past Antonio Conte and Spurs because Antonio Conte is probably the best manager out of those three, of the managers of the rest of those clubs, and I just think he'll work his magic. They do have a couple of games in hand. They do have a couple of games in hand, and if they do win those, then they're back amongst it. So my heart says West Ham, my head says Spurs, although United. United are the question mark because if they click under Ralph, I think they'll win. They'll get in there comfortably because they've got the best squad and they've got a good manager. So it's all about the so-called mutiny, which I touched on last week, being resolved and them clicking under Ralph's system. And if they do, if we watch the next game and they're unworldly and they're like exceptional, they play fantastic football, right? Then they should get fourth because they got the best team, and under Ralph's system, if they can click to it, they'll get there comfortably. It's just about when they click to it, and if they click to it, but it's later on in the year with like a couple of games to go, it might just be a little bit too late. But I have faith in West Ham to maintain the consistency. I have faith in Antonio Conte. I don't have faith in Antonio Conte. I know Antonio Conte is a class manager and he'll get the best out of that Spurs side. But yeah, and I think if United click under Ralph very soon, they'll get there comfortably. And Arsenal, it'd take a miracle for them, I reckon. I just think the other side are just a little bit better. Although they could prove me wrong. And if they do, fair dues to them because they play some brilliant football at times. Moving on to other leagues, other European leagues, La Liga in Spain didn't really play that much, so I won't speak on them. Inter versus Atalanta, played a very thrilling 0-0 draw. I know that's a little bit of an oxymoron, but the game was very entertaining. Inter stay top while Atalanta fight for top four. Bayern and Dortmund both win, so just your standard stuff there, which means Bayern move they maintain their 6-point lead at the top of the table. And PSG win again, so they've got Liga pretty much wrapped up. So yeah, no surprises there. Now, moving on to the only segment I have on this podcast, so the segment, Who Went Into Footed. Now, if this is your first episode, if you haven't listened before, this segment is touching on a player, team, club, organisation, coach, whatever, that did something daft over the week of football, over the weekend, who did something dumb. And I'm surprised it's taken 3 episodes, but Granit Xhaka is the recipient this week. Granit Xhaka is so disappointing. Like, Granit Xhaka, like, it's hard to even put into words how disappointed as a football fan I am, because he clearly has talent, yet Granit Xhaka has let Arsenal down over and over and over and over again. And how many more times can he be trusted wearing that shirt? Because you can't continuously let them down like this in big games, in games where they need a win. They need all the players they can get, because they're setting up in this solid defensive counter-attacking way. Getting sent off basically rules the game off, makes it a write-off. So it's very disappointing, but it's Granit Xhaka after all. He's a talented player, but he just can't keep his head on his shoulders, can you? Now, moving on, what to look forward to in the next week of football. The FA Cup semi-final, Sydney versus Central Coast. I think Sydney should get through on that. I think they're good enough to beat Central Coast there. The Prem is in midweek, which is good. Good, consistent football throughout the midweek, and then moving on to the weekend. AFL Cup second leg, Arsenal versus Liverpool, which of course Granit Xhaka will be suspended for. Obviously, winner of that game goes through to the final to face Chelsea. And Chelsea versus Tottenham on Monday morning, London derby, the biggest game of the weekend. Chelsea have won 2 out of 2 times this season, I believe. 3 out of 3 times this season. I forgot the earlier Prem game. And let's hopefully for myself, they can make it 4 out of 4. But it'll be interesting, because Antonio Conte will have some tricks up his sleeve, I'm sure. Now, that's all for this episode. Thank you all very much for listening. Thank you for watching. Stay well, stay safe. And yeah, please do all the engagement stuff, like, subscribe it, 5-star review on Spotify, sharing it on any platform would be majorly appreciated as well. Any engagement is really, really appreciated. Stay well, stay safe. Thank you all for listening, and goodbye.